Welcome to Faith is the Podcast, everybody. It's amazing how the idea of taking care of what we have now to see it grow later really, connects with that amazing gift of salvation that we get through Jesus. We're given this incredible grace, and just like we try to be wise about our earthly stuff, it's like we're also called to really cherish and nurture that spiritual gift, let it grow in our own lives, but also impact everyone around us, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's a powerful connection. It makes me think about the whole stewardship thing, how we're given these blessings, and it goes way beyond just money, you know what I mean?
Uh huh.
So today we're going to dive deep, or really explore some practical ways to manage our resources so they can multiply. We're going to be looking at some awesome insights from Dr. Paul Nench's masterclass.
Oh yeah, Dr. Enenche. He's got some really cool ideas. And the first one that really popped out to me was, don't spend everything. Sounds simple, right? But
Yeah.
it's so important.
Absolutely. Like Proverbs 21.2 NQ puts it this way: the wise store up choice food and oil, but the foolish devour all they have.
Yeah.
It's all about getting that wisdom of like setting some aside. What do you think about that? Why is that so crucial?
Well, it's like having a little backup plan for when life throws those curveballs.
Yeah,
This stuff happens, and if you've got a little something put away, you're not left in a total panic, right?
exactly. Exactly. And Dr. Nindi also talks about saving as like an act of faith. It's like believing that even when things are tight, there's going to be that chance to save. He told this amazing story about a building dedication. They were intentionally not touching the reserve funds. And guess what? The exact amount they needed, it showed up like miraculously.
Yeah.
What do you think that says about saving?
Whoa, it's like saving isn't just about being careful. It's like trusting that things will work out. That's like shifting from scarcity to abundance, even when you can't see it yet. It reminds me of Dr. Enenche's second key takeaway, building on that idea of not spending everything. Be investment minded, not expenditure minded.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's unpack that. What does that even mean for the average person?
It's all about a change in perspective. Like
Yeah.
Dr. Nench, he's saying that the main thing about resources isn't just spending them right away. It's about like strategically putting them to work so they can multiply. When you think of the word investment, what comes to mind?
For me, I often think of financial investments, stocks and stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess it can be like way bigger than that, right? I mean, think about investing time in learning a new skill or something like that.
Exactly, exactly. And Dr. Nench brings in 2 Corinthians 9.10. He talks about God giving seed for the sower and bread for the eater. I mean, that just perfectly shows like the double purpose of what we have. There's the stuff we need right now, like the bread, and then there's the seed.
Mhm.
And we can plant that seed or invest it to get a harvest later on. And not just more food, but more seed too.
Yeah.
How does that like seed versus bread thing resonate with you? I mean, in your daily life?
I think about where I'm putting my energy. Am I mostly thinking about that immediate bread, or am I actively looking for those seed opportunities, those ways to like invest for future growth? And, Dr. Enenche, he puts it pretty straight. He says that focusing just on consuming, that can lead to a poverty mindset, while focusing on multiplication, well, that brings prosperity.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a huge difference. It's about going beyond just today's needs.
Yeah.
It's actively thinking how what you have can make more later on down
Yeah.
the road. And that story of Joseph in Egypt,
Yeah.
that's like a perfect example of this in action. What do you remember about that?
Oh, yeah. Like the famine, right. And the Egyptians, they ran out of money and started trading their livestock for food. They were totally in survival mode, focused on that bread.
Exactly. Just trying to make it through.
Yeah.
But then the next year, they had nothing left. No livestock, no money,
50%.
total devastation. Right.
Right.
So they go to Joseph. They offer up their land, their service, all in exchange for food.
Mm.
But, and this is key, they also ask for seed to plant. Why do you think that request for seed was so important?
It's like they had this realization, that just getting food for today wasn't going to cut it. They
No.
needed a way to be productive again, to survive beyond that immediate crisis. They totally got the power of like reinvesting.
Yeah, yeah. And Joseph, I mean, talk about wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
He gave them the seed. He understood that just handing out food wasn't a real solution.
Mm.
So he taught them about investment. He set up a system where they'd give a portion to Pharaoh, but then their priority had to be putting that seed back in the ground before even thinking about food for themselves and their families. What strikes you about Joseph's approach?
He gave them the power to stand on their own feet again. He didn't just give them a handout. He gave them like a hand up.
So,
He taught them, how to manage what they had, the importance of thinking ahead. And the people, they realized it. They said he showed them how to survive, how to thrive.
and that brings us right to Dr. Enenche's third point,
Mm.
the power of that seed principle. He says in a lot of stories, as long as people just focused on what they could consume right away,
Mm.
that bread, the struggles, they just kept coming back.
Yeah, yeah.
It was getting that seed principle, understanding investment that made the real change. How do you see that playing out in normal, everyday life?
Hmm. It's like, imagine someone gets a big chunk of money. Maybe they win something.
Yeah.
Their first thought might be to buy something big, like a fancy new car.
Right. Yeah. That's prioritizing consumption right there.
Mm.
And while a car might be nice, it usually doesn't like make more money for you.
Right.
Dr. Enenche says it'd be smarter to look for those opportunities to invest, those chances to plant that seed first. What kind of mindset shift do you think that takes?
Oh man, it's like moving away from wanting things right now. You got to start thinking long term. It's asking yourself, how can this help me create more in the future? Instead of just, what do I want right now?
Yeah, exactly. And when we think back to that whole salvation thing we were talking about earlier, you can see that same idea. That grace we're given, it's not just for us to feel good right now.
Hmm.
It's a seed. It's meant to be planted through, helping others, being generous, sharing our faith. That's what makes it grow, multiply in our lives and everyone else's.
Wow, that's a really cool way to tie it all together. So all those principles from Dr. Nenche, like not spending everything, becoming an investor, getting that seed power, it really highlights how important it is to look beyond just what we need today and really embrace that mindset of growth. Not just with money and stuff, but in our spiritual lives too.
Absolutely.
Just like being smart about our resources can make things grow. Well, embracing faith, that can lead to like crazy, amazing, eternal growth, right?
That's so true. It really shows us that everything we have, in every way, it's meant to be taken care of, used thoughtfully for something bigger than ourselves.
This has been such a great exploration of these ideas, really valuable.
For sure. It gives you a whole framework to think about how you approach, not just money, but all the good stuff you've been given.
Before we wrap up, we want to give a huge shout out to Business Referred for sponsoring Faith is a Podcast. You're the best. If you're a local business owner and want to advertise, hit them up at info@businessreferred.com.
And as you're thinking about all this stuff, about managing what you've got, think about how you can actually use it in your life, not just with money, but also with that seed of faith inside you. What can you do today to make things grow in both areas?
Now that's something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on Faith is the Podcast.